to you, have a cool response prepared. Because mine was not. And so I'm sitting on the phone, you know, I just rushed in from one service, I was getting ready to go to another, and I think I'm just doing this obligatory call, you know, and Jesus is laughing at me in heaven. And he said that, and I'm just quiet, and you can hear, he was in a staff meeting, you could hear the staff go, and I just went, "You gotta be kidding me." He said, "No," he said, we'll send the check, go have your I thought, this is the easiest thing I've ever believed God for. I mean, this crusade stuff's easy. We could pop one of these every 3 months, you know? I mean, 50 grand's popping like popcorn. I'm like, this is great. And so I tell the team, we're so excited. And so now we're trucking along. We get 90 days from the event, and the budget doubles. So we're over into the hundreds of thousands now. Now, my brain is thinking, you know, everybody that's going to give has pretty much given at this point. I mean, we have told everybody we're doing this. Anybody that's going to be compelled to sow into this has done it. Now, I'm 90 days out, and I'm thinking, this is going to be how it all ends for me. I'm going to be that girl that they go, "Oh, remember, that's Jen Tringale. Remember her? Bless her heart, she set out to do that conference, and it all fell apart in the end. And now she's like a hospital care pastor on staff in a church because people felt bad for her." I mean, the enemy would run these scenarios for me. You know, he has his own movies he likes to show you. And I would have to jump up out of bed. It would fly through my head at night, and I would have to throw the covers off, and I would jump out of bed, and I would have to start saying how it is. You know where I got that? All these women right here on the front row that I watched tell those stories and preach those messages. But now it was my time, and now it's your time. And so we get 60 days out, and we still need about $25,000. And one by one by one, every single dollar came in. And when I left for Grenada, that thing was fully funded. We blessed those churches. We blessed the pastors. We did it in grand first-class style. In a third-world country, some of those women came with the only pair of shoes that they had on. And they got delivered and set free. And I watched God do that. But I went back to those 3 months out when the enemy was working on me. And he came at me from every side. And I realized that everything that was arrayed against me was to talk me out of my seat of authority. Because I could still get on the plane and go and do the conference. But if I wasn't in my seat, solid in who I was, the fruit of what I was there to do and destined to do and meant to do would not be. And so the enemy will make a play for you to come and try and steal and try and kill and try and destroy you. But you know, Romans chapter 8 tells us that God will work all things to your good. Do you know that word work there in the Greek literally means that everything that happens, good, bad, or indifferent, that for the called according to his purpose, God picks it up and changes it into an instrument that he will use to work good for you. Everything. Have you heard the theme through this weekend about how God is restoring? You know, that word is a powerful word when it's coming from the Spirit of God. Because when God restores, it is better than it even was before. You know, Jesus told parables to make his point. Can I tell you a story about restored? It's short. But boy, does it paint the picture. There's a well-known multimillionaire by the name of Steve Wynn, right? He owns all those hotels out in Vegas. And Steve Wynn has been a long-time art connoisseur. And he's collected pieces of art for years. And many, many years ago, when he made his first fortune, he saved up his change and he bought a Picasso painting for $48 million. And, if you save up your change, you could buy a Picasso too. You better check that change thing on your dresser. It could be $48 million in there. And so he bought this Picasso, and he has all these paintings, but this one was his favorite. So he's had it for years. Well, in recent years, Steve Wynn has been diagnosed with a degenerative eye disease. And this particular eye disease starts with your peripheral vision. And so he's been dealing with this. Now, cool thing I just heard recently is that when Joel and Victoria Osteen were in Las Vegas to do a crusade, Steve Wynn called Joel Osteen and said, "Would you come lay hands on me and pray for me?" I thought, how cool is that, So anyway, so he's got this eye disease, and so he can't see like he used to see. And so he had decided, I think it's time I'm ready to part with some of this artwork because I can't really enjoy it like I used to. So he called his millionaire best buddy, Steve Cohen. And he said, "Hey, I know you've always admired this Picasso that I have, and I'm ready to get rid of it and sell it, and would you like to buy it?" And so Steve Cohen said, "Well, yeah, I have always liked that, and so send me over the deal, and I think I'll buy it." And so he worked up the deal, and I want to make sure I have the numbers right. And so he said, "Okay, well, it's appreciated since I bought it." So he sold it to him for $139 million, a friend deal. And so Steve Cohen said, "Great." So they exchanged millions among millionaires, and so he said, okay, so it was the night before they were going to ship this painting up to send it to Steve Cohen. And so Steve Wynn said, I think I'm going to call a few friends over. And so he called up his friends. He said, "Look, why don't you come over tonight? And the painting is off the wall, and we're going to pack it up. But this might be the last time you get to see a Picasso up close." And so all of his friends came over, about 100 of his best friends. Millionaires have a lot of best friends. And so they came over, and so he gathered everybody up. And so Steve Wynn began to tell them about this painting. And so he was telling them about all the colors and everything. And so as he was winding up, he turned emotion toward the painting. And when he did, because of his eye problem, he lost his balance. And when he went to catch himself, he put his elbow through the Picasso painting. And so everybody in the room did what you all did. And all the oxygen left the room, And so they steadied him, and so he calmed everyone down, being the gentleman he is. He said, "Look, let's just put this in perspective. I did it, you didn't do it. Nobody's dead. It's going to be okay." And so the next morning, he called his buddy Steve Cohen, and he told him what happened. And he said, "Look, Steve," he said, I'll just let you decide what you want to do. He said, "If you still want the painting, we'll still ship it over, and you can call an art restoration company and get it restored. Or if you don't want to deal with it, I'll send you back your money and the deal's off." And so Steve Cohen said, "You know what? Art is really your thing. It's not my thing. I don't even know where to begin with that. And so you just keep the painting and send me back my money." So the next day, Steve Wynn called an art restoration company. And so they came out and they viewed this painting. And it took them about 2 hours to study the painting. And when they were done, they sat down and they met with Steve Wynn, and they said, "Well, we've gone over the painting, and we can tell you that we will be able to restore it." And he said, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah, but it's going to take a year to restore." And they said, "But when we're done, when you look at the painting, you will never know that anything ever happened to it." He said, "Unless you were to turn the painting around and you see the work of restoration and the stitching." And they said, "If you turn the painting around, the backside will tell the backstory of the work of restoration." And so he commissioned them to restore this painting. And so it took them a year. They actually go in with surgical tools, and they have to stitch back the fibers of the canvas of that painting. Then they had to research, because it was painted so long ago, the pigmentation that was used for the colors that were used back then. And they had to go all over the world to find those pigments to make those colors. And so, very painstakingly, they began to put together this work of restoration. When it was done, a year later, they came to look at the painting. And it was true, like they said, you could not tell that anything had ever happened to that painting. And so Steve Wynn decided to put it up for auction and sell it anyway. And he was going to sell that painting to his buddy for $139 million. After it had been restored, he sold it at a Christie's auction for $155 million.